Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's live. My name is Melody Dixon, CEO and founder of Pro Event Planners. Now, if you're an event planner, you know that putting together a successful event requires more than just a bit of creativity and hard work. Event planning can be challenging, it can be complex. Potential pitfalls are everywhere, especially when you're working with a large group of people. If you don't have the vision to on, things can go awry. So in this series, I'll take you through the most common event planning nightmares and provide you with solutions to overcome them. I'll give you my tips and tricks and my best practices. And they can involve things from last minute cancellations to technical difficulties to, I don't know, the florist forgetting. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong. The purpose of this series is to give you ways to prepare ahead of time so that you won't fall prey to these challenges. All right, so today we're going to cover vendor confirmations. And before I begin, let me just say that I'm an eco-focused event planner. And what does that mean? It means, and I'm going to give you the basic definition of it. It means meeting the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Uh, how I term it is God gives us an expansive life. We're always desiring things. We want to create things. We want to build things. We want to make a new menu, a new dish. We want to plant something. We want to design something, create a new style. So we have an innate ability to be expansive. And so we use resources to make that happen. But we want to do so intentionally so that we're not finishing all the resources based on only what we need. We reserve some for our children and our children's children and people we don't even know 10 generations deep. So I work with clients who are steeped in the knowledge of all things sustainability. They do it in their personal life, they do it in their business life, and they bring that into their business. They find ways to save water, don't reduce the use of paper, feed the homeless, so many different ways. And I also work with people who are they're curious. They've heard about sustainability, they've heard about eco-focus, it's on trend right now. They want to know what it is and they understand that it's a way to, I guess, preserve some resources, but they're not sure how it applies to them in their life and in their business. So I take their hands and we walk through the process together. I show them creative ways to take, little steps to kind of break them in gently, to kind of spread the word in their life and in their organization in ways that are chewable. Hard for them if they're not ready for that. And then I hold their hands through it and they make these tiny changes and they over time make a bigger positive impact on the environment. Now, there are three pillars to sustainability. I'm not going to say them in order. Oh, by the way, if you see me looking up here and then looking down here, up here is Instagram, down here is YouTube. So when we talk about the three pillars of sustainability, the first one is the environment. We reduce, reuse, and recycle. That means we reduce the use of things we already have, like the amount of paper, water. Water is a big thing. I know for me, I'm working on figuring out a workaround for that, but when you turn on the shower, especially this time of year, even though it's in Florida, the water is icy cold. And so I let that run off and kind of warm up a little bit. And I have a plan to put like a bucket, those Home Depot buckets and catch that cold water, and then I can use it to water the garden. So I'm working on getting that together, but that's just one of the forethoughts that you can get when you're leaning towards being completely eco-focused. You think of water. Good morning, Candy Hair Creations. Thanks for joining me. So we think of ways to preserve what we already have. So we reduce the use of it, reduce the running of the water while you're washing the dishes or leaving the lights on when in a room when you're not occupying the room. Reuse. There's so many ways to reuse. Cans that have peas in it, once you take the peas out, you can wash it out, put holes in the bottom of the cans, put rocks and then put soil and put a plant. It can be a little planter. What else? You could reuse plastic bottles and make your own natural juices and use it as storage. So many ways to reduce what we already have and reuse it. Clothes. Can't fit you anymore? Give it away. Donate it. And you can even take it a step further and recycle. Put all your plastics where they're supposed to go, all the cans where they're supposed to go, all the glass where they're supposed to go. Or I like to add a fourth, upcycle. So let's say this jacket, let's say I gained weight and the jacket isn't able to fit me anymore. What can I do? I can give it away, or I can convert it into, I don't know, a mini skirt, or cut off the sleeves and make something else. There's so many creative things that we can do with the stuff that we have. Just buying more. Reduce, reuse, recycle for sure. Now, in this series, I'm going to take you through the most common event planning nightmares and provide you with practical solutions to overcome them. Last minute cancellation, technical difficulties, Pro Event Planners has got you covered, because I've been doing hospitality and events for 30 plus years. And I've been focusing on events mainly for like 20 something years. That's my main thing. That used to be a side gig. Now it's the main, the main gig, the main way I make a living and take care of my family. But it's also a way that I get to serve clients. And I've been through enough experiences to have like a treasure chest of best practices that I can share with you, so that you don't have to go through some challenges that I went through in my early stages. And if you're an event planner, you can totally relate. If you're not an event planner and you do your own events, if these things come up, it's a problem, because you may not know what to do. You may not be able to have the ability to think on your feet right away and come up with a solution based on what happened to you in the past. So we're talking about vendor confirmations, and that's a big, big one, because you need vendors to take care of your business during the event. So a vendor is a company that sells a product or provides a service for your event. That could look like the venue is a vendor. The hotel that provides the venue as well as guest rooms is a vendor. Your caterer, your DJ, your photographer, your videographer, the bounce house person, the rock wall climbing person, the strolling table person, the person that provides the lighting and the dance floor and event staffing. All those people are event vendors. And when we say we do vendor confirmation, that means we communicate with them through the contract details. So let's say we want to have a wedding and we want to do the cold sparklers on either side. Hey, my gosh, good morning, Rhonda. Thanks for joining me today. So we're talking about vendor confirmations, and a vendor is a company or a person that sells a particular service. That could be a videographer, photographer, DJ, caterer. All those people are vendors. When we say vendor confirmation, that means we review the contract details with them. We decide we want them to do our event, do the cold sparklers. And for those who are not familiar with cold sparklers, it's if you know the sparklers you use at 4th of July, you wave it around and you light the candle and it's like sparks coming. They have these larger ones that are like so dramatic. And so you have the bride and groom dancing in the middle and a cold sparkler on either side. And when they're dancing to their first dance as man and wife or husband and wife, they have the sparklers go up and it's so dramatic and it's so wonderful. So you decide you want that vendor. You enter into a contract. You say, okay, I need to have the sparkler during these important dances. That's going to be about an hour or so. What is the cost? Okay, it's, I don't know, $300. Let's say it's $300. They give you their contract, you review it and make sure it has the time frame that you need, the venue where it's going to go, and that you specifically are hiring them to do the cold sparklers. And you want 2 cold sparklers, 1 on either side. So you get very specific with the vendors, because if it's not in the contract, they can't execute on it. And then your client, if I'm an event planner, my client is going to be upset. If you, who are not an event planner, don't have that in writing, you're going to be exposed because the vendor who knows better, or, there's so many vendors, you have to vet them, first of all, make sure that you are choosing the right person, but you make sure everything you want is in the contract and you go back and forth until you both agree. It must have what you're buying from them, what the setup time is, what the delivery time is, what the breakdown and cleanup time is, and what that looks like. Because there are some vendors who will drop things off and they want it picked up and packed up for them versus them coming and packing it up themselves and then removing it from the site. You may pay a little extra, you may not. Okay, so Rhonda says, did not know this level of detail is required. Absolutely. Absolutely. When you're using a vendor for your event, it makes sense to be very detailed, because on the day of the event, you want to make sure that you're enjoying your event. If you're the bride, as the bride, you can't plan your own wedding and be your day of coordinator, and you're going to miss the whole beauty of your wedding. So you hire someone, and that person is taking over from where you left off if you've done all the work so far. So you want to make sure you leave detailed information in each vendor contract. So when you hand it over to your day of coordination person, they have all the information they need to make sure that your event goes off without a hitch. So that is vendor confirmation. You confirm the details of the contract, which includes what you're buying, how much you're paying, the delivery time, the setup time, the breakdown time, and that's just to name a few. It varies depending on the kind of vendor that you hire. All right. Now, why is vendor confirmation important? It's crucial for the smooth and successful delivery and management of your event, as if it can affect the reliability, efficiency, the satisfaction of your event operations. I mean, things can go far left if you don't communicate. As a planner, I confirm and manage my vendors quite a few times. When let's say I have a client who hires me through my pro event package. This is the package where they talk to me about the details that they want to see and how they want to feel and the look and their favorite colors and a particular design element that they want to see. Great. We figure out the budget, and then I take that and just hit the ground running. From that point on, it's my job to find all the vendors necessary to execute on my client's desires. So I negotiate the contract. We go through. The wedding is February 6, 2024, it starts at 4 p.m., but setup is from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. And so we want the two sparklers set up on the stage, on either side of the dance floor. I mean, I get very, very specific. Good morning, Monique. I give them very, very specific information because my bride is depending on me to make sure that the event goes off without a hitch. So I get the contract from the vendor. And then until they have a clear understanding, we may even do a venue walkthrough together. I'll give them floor plans and say, in this spot, 6 feet from the head table is the first sparkler. And on the other side, 6 feet from the other side of the head table is the other sparkler. I want the DJ to play this particular Okay, back. Okay, great, great, great. Yeah. So I confirm and manage the vendors before the event uh, to include a floor plan and a walkthrough. During the event, let's say we're at the setup part. I arrange a time for them to be there. I call them and say, just want to make sure you're on your way. When they get to the venue, I greet them. Thank you for coming. Let's do a quick walkthrough on the place where you need to set up the sparklers. Hey, Crystal. Crystal, she is with Lady of Harp, the best harpist on the planet. She knows. So when the vendor arrives, we'll go to the dance floor. Dance floor is already laid. One sparkler here, one sparkler there. So not only did I put it in the contract, you're blushing. Crystal, you're awesome. So not only did they get the details in the contract, they did the walkthrough with me. And then when they arrive, I walk them to the spot again and say, this is where I want the sparklers. And then just before the time for the sparklers to go off, I am with the vendor, say, all right, I'm right beside you in case you need me to support you. Just remember, I just have to make sure that they remember when the song hits this line, shoot the sparklers. All right. Before the event, they also get a timeline so they know what time they're supposed to be there, what time the dance floor is being laid. If I'm wrapping the dance floor with a picture of the bride and groom or of the Jamaican flag or whatever it is that is important to them, I make sure that's down, and then I schedule the sparkler guy to come. So everybody knows who's supposed to come first, second, third, so that they can time their delivery and drop off and set up. All right. Then I have another way is before I even hire the vendor, I make sure I check their reviews. That is so important. Google reviews, Facebook reviews, um, if they're on TripAdvisor, based on if it's a venue or not, I look at the reviews. And I sometimes may ask for a referral. So that's one of the ways you can make sure that you're hiring the right vendor. Next is I firm up the contract details. So all the stuff I told you before is in the contract. And I make sure the contract is countersigned. That means I sign the contract and they sign the contract. And then we each get a copy of that original document. Since it's their business, they get the original, I get the copy. As a planner, I have the original, my client gets a copy, but it's countersigned. That's important so that both people are agreeing to the contents of what was negotiated. If there are any changes along the way, let's say as we progress, and since we're using the example of the sparklers, The client may say, I want 2 more sparklers by the cake. So when we're cutting the wedding cake together, sparklers are going off as well. Let's say they're obsessed with sparklers and they just want it everywhere. Then we amend the contract. And that could be writing it in, please add 2 more sparklers, and then I initial it or the client initials it, and then the vendor initials it, and then both people get a fresh copy of the now countersigned and counter initialed agreement. All right. So that's the third, I think that's the third important thing to do. Next is clear and regular communication. That means at the initial onset of what you need, you clearly give them address, date and time, client information, what products or resources that they provide that I want for my client, and how is it used, how is it set up, how much time you need to set up, how much time you need to break down. Does someone need to be at the event to monitor and manage the execution of the thing? Clear communication. So that's for contracting. Then we do a venue walkthrough. This is the floor plan. This is where this is going to go. This is where that is going to go. Then they get a copy of the timeline. This is when the vendors are coming that need to lay down what they need to do before you arrive to do your thing on top of them. Crystal says, the planner makes life easier. Absolutely. Event planning is not for the faint of heart. You have to have a heart to serve and be very detail oriented and patient and organized. Crystal also says the planner, timeline, and map. Oh, we love that. Yes. Yep. Crystal does, she plays harps for a myriad of different types of events. And if she doesn't have a copy of the floor plan or know what's happening, when she comes with her harp on the day of, she's going to be like, where do I go? Who do I talk to find out where do I go? Where do I set up? And if we don't already have a designated spot for her that's ready, it could be a hiccup. You're spending time now making space for her, moving things out of the way. So event planners will have the foresight to have all this laid out on the floor plan and communicate regularly and often to all the vendors involved. So I also check with the vendor before the event, during the event, and after. Now, we already talked about before and during. After the event, I ask them, well, I give them feedback on what the client says, or guests make comments about their service. Then I ask them, how was their experience? Was it easy? Did they have everything that they needed? Was everything clear? Did the bride and groom ask them to do anything above and beyond what was on the contract that I didn't know about yet? Let's say they walked up to them and whispered, can you play an extra half an hour longer? Or, something that they may not have communicated to me in that moment. If there wasn't, then if there's a balance due and it wasn't paid before, they can get it right there. Or if it was paid before and they get tips, they get the tip envelope right then and there. And then the last thing that I do is to thank the vendor for honoring what they said they were going to honor in the contract. And let me give you a story on that. There was a lady who reached out to me the other day. She's having a women's retreat at the end of this year. And she said that it was hectic. She didn't hire a planner to help her with the event. And the hotel that she used reneged on some of the things they promised in the contract. And she didn't notice that until the day of the event. So it's her event. She's the keynote speaker. She's managing this retreat situation, but she's also having to say to the hotel, Here's line XYZ. You promised to do all these things and you didn't. So now the hotel is scrambling because maybe there was miscommunication between the sales manager and the banquet staff or the catering staff or the whoever it was. And so now everybody is scrambling. If there was a planner on the job, all that would have been discussed and discovered in what I call my pre-con meeting. This meeting I have about 2 weeks before the event. And the reason why I do 2 weeks is so if there's anything that has fallen between the cracks or any new things the client wants to add, there is a 2 week buffer in sourcing that, getting that, locking in that, paying for that, having that delivered so that on the day of the event, there's no this, we're not doing any of this. He said, she said, no, it's already there, it's already planned, and it's ready to go. So I for sure thank them for honoring their contract. And if they did anything above and beyond, like if the bride went up to them and say, play an extra 30 minutes, and they did, and they've decided not to charge the bride for it, then absolutely it's a big thank you. And I also give them a review based on their service because as a business owner, I know that reviews are everything. Positive reviews are everything. So I give them a review that will help them grow their business as well. All right. So Crystal says planners make certain that you are paid in a timely fashion prior to your service being rendered. I absolutely do that for most of my events. Now, if they're for vendors I hire, sometimes, especially if it's a partial coordination, the vendor may make an agreement with the bride or groom before I am hired. And it could be that they have some kind of relationship where, and people who aren't planners, they oftentimes don't get the benefit of understanding you want your money before you do the work. And they don't have trust in the vendors because they don't have a relationship with the vendors. So I have relationships with my vendors. I make sure that they're paid before. Some clients, they're regular people, they don't trust. And they'll say, okay, I'll pay you half before the event and half after the event because they want to make sure that the vendor delivers on what they promised that they were going to deliver. And so I get that. And once I'm hired into that situation, I work with it and make sure that at the end of the event, I am right there with the vendor, thanking them for their service and handing them the envelope with the money, for sure. Now, as you hear, event planning is not easy. And so I have provided some information that can support anyone who is intending to have an event in the near future. And it's my event planning packages. There's quite a few, but the one I think serves the highest and best, the one that provides the most ease for clients, saves them the most money and stress and work, is my pro event package. This is the one where we talk about what you want to do, what you want to see, date and time, how many people, and how much money you have to spend. I take that information and hit the ground running. I create your budget. I help you find the venue, get the invitations, help you manage the RSVP, hire the caterer, hire the DJ, photographer, videographer, cold sparkler vendors, and a harpist, Miss Crystal, Lady of Harp. And I make sure that your event is well staffed and organized so that you don't have to be worried about anything more than just being the bride or groom or selling your products if it's a corporate event or doing your keynote or doing your book signing. Whatever it is, you leave all the behind the scenes logistics and work of it all to event planners while you get to do your thing. Connect with your employees, network, socialize. Do a presentation in front of your venture capitalist investor people. all of that. So there is a link in the description of this live for YouTube. And for Instagram, the link is in the bio to learn more. All right, let's see what Crystal says. She says, God bless planners. Truly. Girl, you know it is a lot of work, but I love it. I don't mind being behind the scenes because I know how important it is for people to get together and connect. Whether you want to introduce a new loved one or do a funeral or do a meeting, whatever it is, baby shower, gender reveal, the purpose is to get together and celebrate and be together. And I know that in today's world, getting together is it's a lot of work. And, there's a lot of pressures and family dynamics that you have to manage anyway. So why add what color tablecloth to your pile of problems? That's where I come in. And Crystal also says the planner also handles problems as they arrive on the actual day with a smile. Absolutely. Absolutely. Gosh, there's so many stories. I'm going to share one quick one. So I did a wedding last year, and the couple decided to hire their own caterer. And it was difficult pulling the caterer, like, who's the caterer? What's their number? I want to talk with them. I want to meet with them. I want to go through the menu. And they just wouldn't give that information. I found out after the fact that they really didn't firm up anything yet. It was all last minute. And it was a cousin of theirs that has decided to open a catering business that they used. And all he was doing was just dropping off the food. And there was no one in the kitchen to monitor that. And they also decided to add soup at the last minute. So there were no bowls and spoons and things. So on the day of, I'm like, what? Wait, what? Where's the chef? So my team and I, we jumped in, we ran to the store, we got cups and spoons, and we did so many things last minute because the client was holding on to the information, I don't know, for fear. Maybe they weren't prepared. Maybe they were uncomfortable with telling me the truth. I don't know. My job was to make sure the day went smoothly. So as we're scrambling to get this done for the client, guests start coming in because the caterer, who is not someone steeped in the knowledge of all things catering, they just, they cooked for a couple of family events and decide, I'm going to do a catering business. So we made it happen, and the guests had no idea. They got their little containers of soup with the spoon all displayed on the buffet. Lovely. They had no idea what went on in the kitchen, and neither does the bride or groom until after the event. Everyone was happy as we were serving. They were like, oh, this is lovely. This is beautiful. You guys did a great job. And we said, a million thanks. And then we all looked at each other like, y'all don't know what we went through. But we make it happen. Let's see. Crystal says the plan is here to help you. She's your best friend. You have to communicate your wants to her so she can make it happen. Absolutely. Especially when it comes to the budget, clients feel like once the planner hears how much money they have to spend, our sole mission in life from that point on is to exceed the amount of money. And that is not the case with all planners. I can only speak for myself. I want to do what is necessary to execute on a beautiful, special, memorable event, logistically flawless event for my clients. That's it. And so my plan is to make it all happen at or below, and preferably below, because I have a relationship with my vendors, because I have multiple events. That provides my vendors with a surety, a certainty that they'll be getting more events from me in the future. And who doesn't want to fill up their calendar, right? So another day, we're going to talk about budget and how to manage that, and how planners answer questions and objections and all those things when it comes to the budget. So today's vendor confirmation, I hope that was supportive for you. If you know someone who wants to have an event and they want to do it themselves and they're not sure how to proceed, share this video with them, share this live with them, and I'll be happy to answer any questions they have. My email address is info@myproeventplanners.com. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow morning.